Okay, hi everyone. Can everyone hear me? If you can hear me, you can unmute yourself or signify by raising your hand. Let me just know that everyone can hear me. Oh, great. Thank you very much. Um, yeah, so welcome once again to another session. Yeah, thank you very much. I can see that you can hear me clearly. Yeah, welcome to today's session. And since it's 12 o'clock already, we're just going to kickstart and others can listen to this recording afterwards. Today we're going to be covering user research and community deliverables, which is DSN205. The recording for these or the introduction to these was dropped, I think that was early yesterday. Yeah, with a show of hands, how many of us have actually gone through that and is prepared for this class? Show of hands. Wow, no one. Okay, before we, one person, interesting. Before we proceed, please keep it at the back of your mind that the reason why we drop these recordings before the classes happen is so that you would have gone through and you would have understood some basics, or you'd have heard some basics and you'd have questions. So when we are talking through, everything won't seem new to you. Because if every single one here, okay, not everyone currently has gone through that. So if most of the people here have not gone through it at all, and then I'm starting, I'm explaining from scratch here, and you're having to go deal with probably the assignments or the tasks that comes right after this, is not you're not going to be able to, you might not be able to run with it. You might have a lot more questions that I want to attend to. So it helps you, basically helps you more than it helps us, that you should watch these videos and prepare your questions for sessions like this. Okay. Yeah, so I'm just going to run through the material that was prepared. And yeah, by the end, if you have any questions, you can just ask and then we can um, walk through those together. Give me a second to pull up my slides. Right. Okay. Let's see. Let's preview this. Apologies, it's taking quite some minutes, seconds to load. All right, I think we're fine now. So if I'm sharing, yep, got it. Just let me know if you can see my screen. And I would need verbal confirmation this time.
Screen
Awesome.
is
Awesome. Thank you very much. Right. Okay, so I'm going to get started now. And like I said, if you have any questions, feel free to either hold on to them or drop them in the chat and then we can, revisit them when we're done. Basically, once again, we're talking about user research and common UX deliverables. I'm pretty sure from or at some point in your journey so far, you've heard people talk about user research. You've even heard us say, oh, you should perform some kind of research and stuff like that. And you might have been wondering, oh, how do I do it? What exactly is user research? What am I supposed to do? Stuff like that. And I remember that I was explaining, or I was trying to break it down to someone on the call, I think on a call, I think on Wednesday, right? Where he or she was asking what it entails. And I was saying it's not complicated per se, it's simply it's a process, right? User research is a process. Without further ado, let's just dive right into it, and then let's see where it takes us. Okay, so of course, I like starting every session with a relatable a code that is relatable to whatever it is that we're studying, right? And today's one is from Chris Mears. He works at UXR. And basically what he says is that user research is how you will know it's how you will know your product or service will work in the real world with real people, right? It's where you will uncover or validate the user needs, which should form the basis of what you're designing. Let's take that again. User research is how you will know your product or service will work in the real world with real people. Let's stop there. So you would notice that when he was talking, he said real, like he had to add real. I mean, when normally he probably didn't have to add it, but he added it anyway. So you know that when it comes to actual products that humans are going to use, you can't start it without doing some form of research. I mean, you can, because I mean, you can do anything, right? But it would not help you to start it without any form of research, because at the end of the day, you're going to end up with a product that people can't use, or a product that doesn't work for people, a product that people bounce from. They don't like it. It pisses them off, it stresses them, stuff like that. And you don't want that for yourself. So he also went on to say it's where you will uncover or validate the user needs, which should form the basis of what you're designing. Now, key points here are uncovering or validating user needs. And then he went on to saying that whatever it is that you've validated, whatever it is that you've uncovered, or whatever it is that you've learned, should be what would form the basis of what you're designing, should be what forms the foundation of what you're designing. The same way you can't build a house without you can't build a strong structure without a proper foundation. So UX research or user research is a foundation of good UX research is a foundation of tangible and usable product, right? So that's what Chris Mears has to tell us. And I chose this because I think it pretty much gives us an overview of everything that we're going to be talking about today. So let's move on. Now, what is user research? Right. So there is a definition here, and we're also just going to try to break it down as well as possible. User research is the methodic study of target users. Methodic is systematic, right? A structured study. You can change the word to whatever it is that you understand better, resonate with you. Basically, is the study of target users, including their needs and pinpoints. So we as designers will have the sharpest possible insights to make the best designs. That's still relating to what Chris told us a few seconds ago. It's a study. User research is what you do when you have a goal in mind. Right? You want to build a product. You want your product to do ABC, XYZ, right? Before you start that journey at all, what you need to start with, or what you need to engage in or dive deep in, is user research. So basically, you would go into these and then you would really look at the people that you're trying to build for, right? If I am designing a solution today, for instance, the first question is, what am I doing? Like, what am I designing? What am I trying to build? When you identify that, the next question is, who am I doing these things for? Like, who is going to use it? Who's going to use them? Is it going to be beneficial to them? Right. Another question is, what exactly are they experiencing? And I'm explaining the point that we said. We've talked about target users, like who am I building for? And then their needs. Why? Like, what do they need? Right. And their pain points. What exactly are they experiencing that would make them want to use this product? So you see why user research is important, because the moment you've been able to answer this question, I was telling someone a while back that when it comes to design, when it comes to solving problems, once you have a clear idea of what you're doing, design becomes relatively simpler, becomes relatively easier. And that works every time. If you get a task today and then you don't understand what the task is about, it's going to take you days, weeks, a very long time to fix it. But if you get a task and then you understand exactly what they're telling you to do and you don't have any questions at all, funny enough, you can finish that task in less than an hour, if not in minutes. Because once you know the basics, there is close to nothing that you cannot do, right? So that's what user research is. It's the first step. It's the first step. And the thing is that even though you might not know it, to a certain extent, you've been doing it, right? We're going to go deep into, the types, the methods, and everything. But even though you might not know, you've actually also been doing user research in some form or shape or way, right? But that is always the first step. That moment when you ask somebody, oh, what are we building? Oh, why is this here? Why are we doing this? What you are asking questions, you're trying to understand, you're gathering data, right? So that's basically what user research is all about. Once again, it's methodic study of target users, including their needs and pain points, so that we can have, the best insights to make great designs, great products, provide great solutions. Um, user researchers use various methods to expose problems and design opportunities and find crucial information to use in their design process. Yes, we're going to be talking about this also, but there are a lot of methods, right? There are a lot of them, and we can't. The recording I did for this particular topic is the longest so far. I envisioned that it was going to be around 20 minutes, but when I started, there was just a lot to talk about. So what I'm trying to tell you is that it's broad. User research is very, very broad, right? But what we're trying to do here is give you the basics that you need to understand, everything you need to understand, whatever it is that you're going to be reading up on in the future, right? So in case if you go Googling right now, you go researching and you're saying that, oh, there are a bunch of other things that you've not heard of yet. Yes, it's possible because user research is a very, very broad topic. All right, so I hope everyone understands what user research is now, the definition of user research, and we're going to be moving on to the other aspects of this. Now, when you talk about user research, it's essentially split into two subsets, right? Two. And they are the qualitative research and quantitative research. Now, they want to sound like they're familiar, but they are not, right? There is the qualitative and then there's the quantitative. Now, if you hear these names from the word qualitative, like we can derive the word quality, right? So the best way to help you remember this is when you hear qualitative and quantitative research, is when you hear qualitative, just pick out the word quality. And basically what that means is that every single method of research that falls under this particular subset is focused on gathering the highest quality of data possible. Do you understand? There are some research methods that you use to get data, and I'm putting my hand in a quote here. Data, it's just data. You're getting as much information as you want from people. That is quantitative quantity. Quantitative research focuses on the volume of data, right? And the thing about quantitative research, I'm talking about second one right now, is that the responses or the data that is gotten from qualitative research methods, they are easily measurable, right? So let me give you an example. At some points in some way or some form, you've come across a survey before, right? Or you probably even sent a survey to some people telling them, hey, can you please help us fill this form? We're trying to learn about, or we're trying to gather this information, blah, blah, blah. That's an example of a quantitative approach, because the idea is that once you send that survey out, you can get to 50 people, 100 people, 1,000 people, thousands of people. You can get to a lot of people, and then you get so much data. But you will notice that even no matter how much that data is, when it comes, it's always structured, because chances are you're going to use Google Doc or whatever Google Forms or whatever platform that you're going to use, and they're going to structure that data for you, right? So of course you're sending the information out. You're probably asking them like a couple of questions, maybe 5 questions. Oh, what do you think about this? Do you like this? And they answer yes, no, yes I do, yes I don't. No I don't, right? And then when you get that data, you can easily see, you can measure it. Oh, from this poll, from this survey that we did, the statistics show that 50% of people like maybe Apple, and 40% of people like Windows, right? Those data are always very clear. But when you're talking about qualitative research focuses on the quality of the data. So sometimes, depending on the work that you're doing, you have to choose which subsets you're going to pick your methods from. Do you understand? There are some projects that you might have to work on that the kind of data that you need is just has to be granular. You have to break it down to the lowest point and really, really understand what people are genuinely going through, right? And an example on that this would be, I don't know if you've heard of something called focus groups before. I'm also going to talk about it later on. But let me just give you a little intro into what that is. So there are times when large corporations, large companies, large agencies want to test out a new feature or a new product, or brands also do it. And then they can just get a group of maybe 8 people, just 8 or 5, not too much, right? And then they put them in a room. So imagine that Zurich builds a product right now, or we have a solution, and we gather 5 random people from the training, and we put you guys in a room, and they were like, take this, explore. We don't tell you what it does. We don't tell you how it does, how it solves problem or anything. We just give it to you to figure it out. And then we leave you alone for a couple of hours, and then we are studying you, we are watching you, right? And every single thing that you're doing, that you're saying, every single reaction that you're having, or any single expression that you're facing, we are recording them and noting them down. So that's where you hear people saying things like, oh, at some point I noticed that, um, um, participant A got uncomfortable, right? Because when people are struggling to understand stuff, they're going to get uncomfortable, right? So you would notice things like that. Oh, this person got uncomfortable. This person started dozing off. This person started smiling, like in a subtle way, says like they like something that they are saying. You focus on, I mean, you really, really study them, right? And what happens is that when you're done, because you've been able to put your attention on just a select number of people, you're able to get more data from them. Now, the difference here is that the data that you're going to get from these people under qualitative research, they are not always measurable. So imagine that you are looking at 8 people and then you notice somebody like grinding their teeth, or scratching their head, or frowning their face. How would you measure that? I mean, it's possible that maybe it's possible that someone sees something they like and then they are still, frowning anyways, and they are not smiling, right? So you cannot really measure those data the way you can measure quantitative research data, but you'll be able to understand that, oh, look, because I'm focusing on this part, this number of people, I'm seeing this person feeling uncomfortable. People can tell you anything. That's what quantitative research does. It asks you for what people are saying. But for qualitative, you're seeing what they are doing. You're watching them, how they are behaving, how they are responding, how they are reacting. And why that is hard to measure, it's very, very important, because you want your product to make people feel good. You understand? You want your product to make people feel good. So that's what this does, right? That's what qualitative research in a nutshell focuses on, right? Really how people behave, like how people behave, how they interacting with this. Does it I really need to understand what is going on. I don't just want to hear what they have to say. I want to see it. I want to study it. I want to have a granular breakdown of everything. Yeah, I spent quite a lot of time talking about it. This is actually very interesting once you get to dive deep into it. But yeah, these are 2 subsets: qualitative research and quantitative research. Now let's go into just running through some definitions, right? For qualitative research, that's quality, volume. Qualitative research focuses on the quality. We said that already. Focuses on the, quality is not volume. Quality is how solid data you're getting is. Qualitative research focuses on the quality or meaning of an end user's experience, right? UX researchers, qualitative UX researchers collect an in-depth understanding of individual users. Yeah, we've said this already, right? They are focused on understanding the nature of human experience, like why do users do what they do, what motivates them to complete a particular task. So basically, qualitative answers why, which is like everything that we've been talking about since. You're really taking time to understand what they are doing, like why are they do they love this? Why do they love it? What is going on in their head? What's going on in their minds? I really want to understand these people. And once you do, you'll be able to come up with a solution that just works, right? So Then there is the quantitative research, and this is volume. Now, in quantitative method, the researcher measures user behavior in a way that can be quantified, right? In a way that can be measured, data, statistics, right? So so things like how many, how often, how much, it's questions like that that quantitative focuses on, right? And the thing is, in a lot of instances, what many people resort to is quantitative research because it's relatively easier, right? I mean, if you're with us today and you're supposed to talk to people, how many of you will be comfortable going to fields or going outside to restaurants or cafes to meet up with strangers and be like, oh, hi, can I get like 5 minutes of your time? Can you please go through this and give me like I mean, in a sense, it sounds weird, right? But people actually do this. People actually do this, and it works for them, right? But yeah, quantitative research focuses on getting data that can be quantified. So if I want to build a new app, for instance, and I'm trying to decide, this particular app, which version should we start with? Should we start with a version for Android users or iPhone users? All right. A way for me to get a quick answer to that is just to publish a survey. Oh, we're trying to build this blah 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 blah, and we're quite conflicted on which device we should build for first. So would you rather we build for Android first or iOS? Mind you, we're going to build for both eventually, but would you rather we build for Android first or iOS? And then we'll send that survey out. We will send it to 100 people. By the time the results come back, we are going to see very, very clearly which one we're going to go for, because people are going to choose, right? It's either A or B. It's a measurable data. I hope you understand what the difference is in both now, right? So quantitative answers what, like what should you do, what do you want, what is this, what is that? But qualitative answers how, why, like why. So if you're saying build for iOS first, why? So we study you, like, why are you saying build for iOS? Is it because you use mostly Apple product? Is it because you've heard people say bad things about Windows? Is it because we want to know why? Yeah, so basically that's like the subsets that user research or UX research, we can use that interchangeably, are broken down into. Once again, if you have questions, just hold on to them. I'm going to attend to them after now. Yeah, we've talked about it. I just decided to put it out there. Generally when it comes to research, when it comes to gathering insight, understanding people you're building for, there are always two approaches, which is kind of related to everything that we've been saying. It's either attitudinal or behavioral. Attitudinal is like what they say. So for instance, if I send a survey out and you're saying, oh, I'd rather work with this than this, I would rather use, I would rather buy an Apple AirPod, right, than an Oraimo AirPod. That's what people are saying, right? But then when you observe people, sometimes you could have people that have a particular product, and then they are not, I mean, they say they like it, but when they are using it, they are not that happy, right? There has been times where the same people that are advocating for, let's say, iOS, when we start, I mean, when they say it, they're like, oh, I would always use Apple, but you see them in some cases when you're observing them, that they're like, oh, I'm trying to do a particular thing here and it's stressing me out. I don't like the fact that I'm not able to do this, and then they are remembering their Android days, right? That's behavior. You can see that it's the same instance, but what they are saying and what they are doing are two different things. That's why in every aspect or in every area of the process of your design, you have to choose. You have to understand what you want to do and choose which approach you want to go with. Do you just want to listen to what they say, or you want to study them? There are different criteria that influence what you intend. I mean, what you end up going with at last. There is the you factor, there is the resources factor, there is the stakeholder factor. I mean, that's the owner of the company. If they say that, oh, they don't have time for this, you have to do what works for them, right? But yeah, just know that there are two approaches to user research. You can either listen to what they say or watch them and see what they do, or do both. Listen to what they say and see what they do, so that you can get a more accurate data from them. All right, now let's move into really integrating research into our design process, because that's why we're here. We don't just want to learn about what qualitative and quantitative means. We want to know how it ties into what we're doing. And first thing to note is that user research is a continuous process. It's not something that starts and then stops, right? It's a continuous process. And the thing about it is that it takes place in every aspect. Sorry, hold on. I think there's something wrong with my give me a second. Yeah, sorry. Okay. So yeah, it takes place in every aspect, right? Either before, I mean, it's not either. It takes place before you start designing. It takes place during your design process, right? And it takes place after the design phase. So it's, you might hear or you might be hearing things like, oh, I'm doing my user research so that I can design the product so that I can move on. Because sometimes when designers start product, they just want to move on. They get tired at some point that they want to move on. But this goes deeper than that. UX research is not complete just because you finish designing. No, there are still a lot of things that needs to be done. There are still a lot of things that you need to iterate on, and that's the thing. The design process or the product cycle is it works with a lot of iterations, which is why when some of you are asking questions, I think it was on the call or during on Slack, asking, oh, um are you supposed to talk to people to ask them about what you're trying to do, right? The answer is yes. Helps it always helps that you factor in actual users in whatever it is that you're building. Okay, it always helps that you factor in actual users, because the moment you do, you'll be able to come up with a product that works. And I've been emphasizing this because if you put a product that don't work, right, it's going to be, you've ended up wasting your time, right? Because number one, you can't put it out there. You cannot advertise it. Oh, you cannot advertise it proud that I worked on this. And at the end of the day, your users can also use it, right? And then the goal of user experience is to, I mean, the goal of UX research is always to prioritize the user, right? You want to make sure the users are happy. You want to make sure the stakeholder, like the business needs, are met, because the person paying you, you don't want to be telling them that, oh, look, it's like what we are doing is not working. That's very, very sad. All right. So basically, UX researchers or user researchers, they can, you as a good user researcher, you can help to bridge the gap between, what a business thinks the users need and what the users actually need, right? And this is important because I've been in a situation where I was hired by a stakeholder to work on a product, and then not just me, we're a team, right? And then the stakeholder had a very clear idea of what he wanted to do, right? Oh, we want to do this, we want to help them solve this, this is how we're going to do it. We've done this research, we've done this, that. And we're like, okay. So based on the research that was already done, how we wanted it, we worked with that. And for a while, for a long time, we were still running with that, only for us to come to a conclusion at the end of the day that, look, this doesn't work. This is not going to work. I have to close that idea. Everybody went their separate ways. Now that's like how many? No, that's a lot of time wasted. Nobody wants that, right? So keep it at the back of your mind that user research comes before the design phase, during the design phase, and long after the design phase. All right. Now let's talk about the different types of user research. Now, what we talked about before was subsets, like places it can be categorized into. Remember, right? Now we'll actually talk about the types, and which is kind of related to what we just talked about before, during, and after. We have the foundational research. This is the first, and basically this is a research that takes place before anything is designed. It's still the same thing that we've been saying, right? So we said design takes place before, during, and we said research takes place before, during, and after the design process. Now, the research that takes place before the design process is called the foundational research. Some people also call it, strategic or generative research, right? So this is the initial phase. This is where people come down, they start thinking, okay, what are we doing? What are we doing? Let's really figure it out. What are we doing, right? And then there is the research that takes place during the design phase, and that's called the design research. Right? Some people call it tactical research, but that's the design research. It's the research that takes place during the design, right? And then we have the third type, which is called the post-launch design. I mean, the post-launch research. So basically, this is the research that takes place after, right? It's the research that takes place after the product has been launched, right? So you hear people saying things like, oh, we are getting feedback from our users. Oh, we're trying to test something with our users. Oh, our users are complaining about this. Let's fix it. And how do you think they find out about those things that users are complaining about? It's because the research process does not end. It keeps going. It never stops. All right. Because the moment you stop researching what people are experiencing and going through, your app starts dying. Like gradually. You might not die once, but gradually start dying. That's why you experience things like you've been using an app for a while, and for a while, like they've been giving you updates, right? They drop an update today, and they're like, oh wow, this app cannot do this. Drop an update next week. Oh, this app cannot. That's nice. And at some point, maybe they start dropping updates that now start giving you headache. Right? Oh, there's a new update, but now I cannot refresh my app. There's a new update, but now my app is freezing. I'm currently facing that problem with one of my banking apps. It has been fine for years, and very recently, sometimes when I'm typing in descriptions in my transactions, it freezes. And I know damn well that it's not my phone that is freezing, right? So I've been having to deal with that for a while. Till date, I'm still dealing with it. I mean, I don't have a choice. I kind of need that particular, app, right? But it's sad. I'm experiencing this every time, and it's very, very sad. Right. So if they had done a proper, or if they were consistent with their research and they asked the users, oh, what are you people experiencing? The current update, how is it going? Or if they actually study their logs, right, their records, and see that there are crash reports. Because here's what happens sometimes when your applications crash, whether on your system or your phone, mostly on your system, you get a prompt that tells you, oh, this software just crashed. Do you want to send a feedback to the company, stuff like that, right? And on their end, if people are being cut off from their system, they would know. So if they were studying those data, they would have fixed this, but they've not fixed it, and that's very, very sad, right? So that's why there's also, research after the product has been launched, so that you can follow up with people, with your users generally. All right, so let's really talk about these different types, one after the other. Let's pick them apart and talk about them one by one. Now, for foundational research, right? We already said this is the research that you do before designing. So foundational research answers the question, what should we build? Like, it's what? We want to start a product now. Like, we want to do something. The question is, what should we build? Right? And under this foundational research, that's when people ask questions like, or that's when the designers and the stakeholders and product managers ask questions like, okay, what are the problems? Like, what are the problems that people are facing? How can we solve them? Mind you, we've not even thought about opening Figma yet. Figma is where Figma is, right? We've not opened any design software. We just want to learn and understand what are the problems that people are facing, what should be built for them, like how should we solve it for them. And there's one of that important question that people that actually know what they are doing ask is, am I aware of my own biases, and am I able to filter them as I do research? And I'm going to explain this. So a lot of times, not a lot of times, sometimes when people reach out to me and they're like, oh, I need you to help me make a decision, this or this or that, I point blank tell them, right, every time that happens, look, I can answer you, right, but I personally have a bias towards this. So if you're coming to me for my opinion or my take, there's a chance that I might be biased. But because I know my bias, it helps me be a little bit more practical, right? It helps me be a little bit more realistic, because now I'm not just saying, oh, this particular product is the best, right? For people that use external mouse to work, I do too. I use a Logitech MX Master mouse, and before I bought it, people had been hyping the mouse for a while. Like, they have been hyping, so I was like, you know what? Let me just get it. Now I've gotten it, and I can't depart from it. Right? So if anybody asks me that, okay, what kind of mouse should I buy for a seamless design process, I'll be like, you know what? Logitech is the one for you. But there are people that will tell you the Apple Magic Mouse is the best. There are people that will tell you there are other ones that are the best, right? But the moment if somebody comes to me and asks me, okay, which one should I know that I'm already biased towards this one. So I'm going to be like, okay, let me put things into perspective. Let me think. I have a bias towards this because of this, that. But this particular mouse does not have this feature and that one has. And considering that you are the kind of person that would like this, I guess it's best for you to go with that one instead. You can see, right? So naturally, people have biases. People have biases, like naturally. But then, as a good researcher, you need to be aware of those biases. You need to know what you know and know what you don't know, and then be able to take yourself out of the equation generally. Right. So yes, this is foundational research, right? It's always done before you start designing. And the goal of this foundational research, like we said, is it's when people ask the question, what should we build? It basically helps people define, it helps the team define the problem that they want to design a solution for. It's the defining phase. Like the same way we define we add definitions to the front of each, or we add definitions before going deep into every topic, right? There's always a defining phase so that you know, right, what you're doing, what you should build. Right. And then so basically, so here is where people, initially researchers initially start talking with people to identify their pain points. We talked about this before, right? And so from what you're going to gather from asking these questions, asking people these questions, you'll now be able to come up with opportunities. You have to be able to come up with ideas, creative approaches that can help you tackle whatever it is that you're about to whatever project is that you're about to design. Okay, so under this foundational research, right? Like when we started earlier, I mentioned that there are different methods of research, right? And these methods are spread, or they are, they spread into the different types of research, right? So under foundational research, that's where we have things like interviews. So when you see people come and be like, oh, we are trying to build a product, can you help us answer this question? That's exactly what it falls under. And that's why we do it. Now, those people that do those things, in fact, it's not even they definitely have not started any design thing yet. They've not done any design at all. They are trying to gather information, gather data, right? And surveys also fall under this. Right, surveys fall under this. Right, you are coming up with a couple of questions, couple of strategic questions to ask people, and they are like, oh, help us fill this, so that by the time they submit, you can see in real time how many people are actually like facing a particular problem, and how many people are actually going to be willing to pay XYZ for it. Okay, and then we have the focus groups, like we've talked about. Now, focus groups can come in different aspects of things, right? You can have a focus group to test an idea. You can have a focus group to test an idea. And when my company a while back, when we wanted to start, we had an idea that we wanted to test out, right? We did brainstorming sessions, right? But then we wanted to build a new product. We started talking, and they were like, okay, what should we build? And then when the ideas come, we now started like workshopping those ideas, right? So everybody just sits in a circle and then, okay, look, this is what we're doing. Why should we do this? Why should we not do this? How does this make you feel? Like, so you can have focus groups internally, you can have them externally, right? But focus groups can also help you, because when people are talking about particular features and then they are just they're making hypotheses, right? Oh, if we work on maybe a car that can go on the ground, I mean, it's going to be cool, but am I sure I'm going to feel safe on the ground? And then somebody's not going to say something like, oh, you know what? If the car can go on the ground, I mean, on the water, then, I mean, it's on the water, but not on the ground. If a car can go on the water, then the engineers would actually have to build structures around safety that, no creature can just penetrate the glass and cause harm to the driver. And that person is going to say something like, oh, but they said the bottom of the ocean is very deep. How are we going to, solve that, right? So focus groups help you poke holes in whatever it is that you're doing. Like, people who play the devil's advocate, they will tell you, look, this thing is not going to work. Look, if you do it like this, it's going to fail. You do that, it's going to fail. So at the end of the day, you have so much data to work with that you now have to take a lot of time to structure them and then find a particular approach that can work, right? And then people also do field studies in this stage under this method, where they go out and then they talk to people, they talk to people in their environment. So if, for instance, you are building a product for farmers, like I used in the recorded session, in the recorded video, if, for instance, you're building a product for farmers, right? In this, what field studies means is that you now go to, farmlands where they're actually working to study them. Like you want to watch them in their domain. Let's put it in that way, right? You want to watch them in their domain. You want to really understand what they are doing so that you can form a better approach to, or you can come with a better approach for whatever it is that you're building for them. I skipped competitive audit. Competitive audit basically means you studying your competitors. Now, if you're about to break into an industry, right, it is always smart that you understand what your competitors are doing first. Know their strengths and weaknesses so that you can identify the best entry points for you. Because if you want to break into the fintech space, for instance, and you're like, oh, I'm just going to build. There are people that have been running this thing for 10, 20, 30 years, and you're coming from nowhere and you're like, oh, I'm just going to build without research. They will run you out. They will run you out of business very, very fast, right? So you want to study, you want to have an overview of your competitor's strengths and weaknesses, and do your own audit, like really understand what they are doing so that you would know their strengths, right? You know their strengths and weaknesses, like you can use that to make informed decisions in your own process. And then there is something also called diary studies. Basically, this is also a method that is used to collect qualitative data about user behaviors. Now, for every single one of these that we're saying, right? Remember that we said user research falls into two subsets, right? So let me just categorize them in a way for you, right? So interviews, because interviews are one-on-one. Interviews can be qualitative. Quality, because if you're talking to somebody and they're dedicating time to you, you can ask them anything that you want to ask them and they will give you an answer to that. Now, the thing is that the answers you get from one-on-one interviews might not be measurable, because if somebody's telling you that, oh, I like this, oh, I do this, oh, I do that, it's not something that you know that you have a lot of data, a lot of information from this, but you can't necessarily measure it. So that's qualitative compared to surveys where we send them out, hundreds of thousands of people fill, and they come back as data, structured data. So interviews fall under qualitative, while surveys fall under quantitative. Do you get? Focus groups also falls under, if you guessed it, you're right, qualitative, because you're focusing on a select number of people. So you're gathering as much data from them, right? Competitive audit, studying your competitors, falls under qualitative, because you're focusing. Okay, if UBA is my competitor, for instance, right? I'm studying them. I'm focusing on them for weeks, maybe months, studying them, trying to figure out everything they are doing, how they are doing, everything they are doing. I'm going to get so much data from that, right? Field studies is also qualitative, because you're going there to study them work. You're observing them. You're not just hearing. They're not just telling you that, oh, I work in a field. You're seeing it. You're not just saying that, oh, every day I go to somewhere, I pick my eggs. No, you're seeing everything that they do, right? And then diary studies is also qualitative, because think about what diaries do. People use diary to jot down experiences, right? Activities, remind themselves of past happenings and stuff like that. So you know that if you're holding somebody, that's why diaries are so special to people, right? Because they know that sometimes some diaries can contain the sum of somebody's life, right? From the day they started writing to now, right? So that's why people hold it there, and that's why this is also a qualitative method, because every day for these diary studies, every day the user will be logging information about the daily activities, right? So today we did this, that. Tomorrow we did this, that. By the time you're done, you're going to have so much information about exactly how these people go about their daily activities that you'll be able to make decisions as though you're them. I don't know if you understand, right? So that's we definitely have different methods of research, and each of them falls under either qualitative or quantitative. So when you understand those basics of qualitative and quantitative, those subsets, you'll now be able to categorize the different methods that you come across from now on into any of those subsets, right? Yeah, so we're done talking about the methods of foundational research. As a recap, this is the research that is done before the design process starts, right? And it focuses on answering the questions, what should we build, right? What should we build? Now, without wasting more time, let's go down to the design research, which is the second one. And design research basically focuses on how should we build it. Now, we've been able to ask ourselves, what should we build? Like, that's a question, right? Now, how should we build it? How? Like, I'm trying to put it together now. How? Right? So, excuse me. When you're during the design phase, you cannot just run with whatever it is that you have in your head, right? You have to test. Okay. You figured out what you want to build. You started putting something together, but you test. You test at each and every point, right? There's this slang that I don't know who said it first, but it's stuck in my head. Someone says, "Design are your mates." Basically, what that means is that design is not for babies. Like it's not child's play. Because I was on a call. I think I was on a call. Was it yesterday or day before yesterday? I was with a team and we're trying to figure out. We were going through a flow. I'd done some design. We're going through a flow. I did the first iteration and then I sent it them. And they had to come back because I needed, them to answer the stakeholders to answer questions. And then we're on a call with the stakeholders. And just for one screen in that particular flow, imagine that you're going from login to press this to proceed. And then one of those screens, we were stuck there for a while trying to figure out the best approach that worked. In fact, the entire meeting, or 90% of the entire meeting, was spent on just one particular screen. That's how crazy it can be, right? That's why you can't just do it on your own. Like, you really, really have to ask questions and test. You have to ask questions and test. So things like, how was your experience in prototype? If you're designing a flow, right? That's why prototyping is also a very good best friend to designers, because sometimes you just have to show people how it works. People can't understand what they see sometimes, especially if they are not design savvy or tech savvy. Right? You're showing them wireframes, you're showing them information architecture, you're showing them site map. I mean, what is this? I don't get it. If you want me to help you, help me help you, right? So you do a prototype of a particular flow. And yes, I'm saying a particular flow because products have multiple flows. Say if your app helps people buy, if your app helps customers buy, helps vendors sell, the buying journey is one flow, the selling journey is another flow, the registration journey is a flow, right? The journey to check your order is another flow. The journey to go and update your profile is another flow, right? So that's what we mean by flow. So work on a particular flow, prototype it, and send it out there. Send to people that can try it out. Oh, okay. You've tried this. What do you think? Right? Does it work for you? How do you think we can make it better? How easy was it? Now you notice I've been using a lot of hows. Like, how easy was it for you to figure it out? How easy was it for you to use? How was the experience with it? Did you enjoy it? Would you like to use more of it? Did you encounter any challenges? So if the feedback from all these are now positive, then you know for a fact that you're onto something. But if you're building and then you send this out and then people are telling you that, look, problem, I don't understand this. This looks weird. Why is this here? This is too small. This is too big. Then you know that there's something that needs to be done. You have to go back to the drawing board and create a new version of your design. Now that's why this aspect is very important, because now you probably might have heard things like, oh, once you start a process and you design something, you have to stick with it. That's not true. Designers make iterations. Like, you have to be willing to make iterations. It doesn't matter if you spend 50 years is too long. It doesn't matter if you spend 6 months working on a product. Once feedback comes from the user that, look, this is not working, nobody cares if you spend 6 months on it or not. Go back to make it work, because if it's not working, they can't use it, and then your 6 months would have been for nothing, right? So basically, within the development process or the development life cycle, right? Whenever designers are designing, the design research has to happen. You can't push it anywhere. And basically, it's if you focus on it, it's going to help you inform your designs. It's going to help you inform your design decisions, right? It's going to help you really fit the needs of the users into whatever it is that you're building, right? And for every time that you make a new variations or a new update, there should some form of design research should actually go on so that you would know the best way to approach it. Remember, this particular type of research talks about how you should build it. So if you don't ask questions, if you don't get clarity, you wouldn't know how you will be able to proceed, or you won't be able to proceed effectively, right? Yeah. So let's move on to talking about the methods that falls under the design research. Now, some of the methods that falls under this are the likes of A/B testing. I don't know if any of you have heard of A/B testing before, but basically what A/B testing is okay, let me just break it down, make an example, right? Very recently, or very short, very recently, one of the companies I was working with, right, we launched a new marketing site because we needed to push people to make a particular action or take a particular action. So that's what we do. And by the way, that means that it's a landing page, just a single page site that pushes people to do one thing, just one call to action. And then we sent it out. We got some people that liked it, but we were not satisfied with the responses that we got. So what we did was that we made a duplicate of that page, right, and changed some things and launched that one also. I launched that one instead, rather. So basically what A/B testing is a method that helps you compare two different aspects of a product to see which one works better. So imagine that on the first marketing site that we launched, we said something like, we can help you solve your tax problems. Let's say that's what we said there, right? The heading of that website says, let's say it says, we can help you solve your tax problems. And then I put it out there, and then maybe we get 3 people give us attention, right? And of course, there's nobody that would get 3 people's attention that would be like, oh, we are successful. It's not working yet. So let's say we now pull that back and we're like, we change it from we can help you solve your tax problems to we can help you identify potential problems before they actually become problems, or we can save it from the IRS, right? Or say no to the IRS, or IRS. IRS, if you don't want to continue knowing what that means, get in touch with us, right? Because some people don't know what IRS means, Internal Revenue Services. Those are people that handle taxes, right? But if you've been paying your taxes on time, right, you won't have to worry about them. But there are people that have issues with taxes, and the IRS is disturbing them every time. So if you're going to capture people, right, we need to test with different kinds of headings. And we cannot put different headings on one page or on one site. So what A/B testing does is that we build the sites, right? No wahala. Let's separate it, let's duplicate it, and then use different headings for, in these different ones, and test them. See which ones get us more attention, see which one gets us more people. Do you understand? That's what A/B testing is. So different aspects of a product, just to see which one is more effective, right? Then we have the cafe or the guerrilla studies. This this is interesting because it's kind of similar to what I've said before, where feedback is gathered by going into the public domain, like going into the public and then getting them to go through your app and asking them for their thoughts, right? So imagine going to a cafe or a workspace or a hub, right? And then you just reach out to people there and you're like, could you please spare 5 minutes? I need you to just help me go through this and let me know what you think. Just random people that you don't even know, that don't hold you anything and stuff like that. And the reason why this is so amazing is that these people have no reason to want to make you feel good. Because if you're talking to your friends can be like, your friends might know how long you spent on that work, and then they'll be like, you know what? Oh, my G, you did really good, man. But you're talking to strangers that don't owe you anything. They probably don't even care if your app works or not. They don't know you yet. So they'll be able to give you feedback that probably your friends or people that are close to you, people that actually like you, would not be able to give you, right? And if you can get people, a number of people to actually test your app for a couple of minutes and provide feedback, then that feedback would go a long way into helping you make changes, helping you adjust your design decisions, right? So that's what cafe or garage study is all about. Then there's card sorting. Card sorting is quite common. It's quite common. I don't know how many of you have seen flows that designers use for user stories, right? I don't know if a lot of you have come across user stories before, but maybe after now, if you remind me, I can find a picture of what card sorting look like. So basically, it's like getting a pack of sticky notes. Getting a pack of, those are like you can tear them off one by one and paste them in places. Getting a pack of I'm talking about the physical sticky notes now, not the one that comes with your system, please. I'm talking about the physical pack of sticky notes, and then maybe you write the different needs or different requirements of your app on each one, right? So think about it this way. I want to build an app today, or say I want my app to have the ability to, I want people to be able to perform action A. Let's just call it that. Action A to Z, right? Now I've separated all these cards and I've put them on the table, right? So what I'm now going to come back to do is that I'll start picking them out one by one. So if item A and item X and item Y and item Z falls under the same category, I'm going to paste them in a row, like in a column, right? Just on a board. I don't know if you understand. And then you go back again, you look through them again and see which other ones fall in the same category, and you place those ones in their own column. By the time you're done, you're going to have a board filled with different columns of different categories, and each category will have different items under them. Right? That's what card sorting is like. It's a lot of work, yes. But so what happens is that when you're tackling those problems, all you have to do is just walk up to the board, pick a card, and go and work on that. Once you're done working on that card, pick another card, and you would already know exactly where each and every single item falls under, because you've sorted them properly. That's an example of what card sorting is like. Someone should please remind me when we're done sharing the screen to show you guys an example of how that works, right? But yeah, that's card sorting. And then intercepts, right? So intercept is basically a research method that gathers that people can use to gather on-site feedback from users as they engage in activities being researched. So think about it this way. If you are trying to build an app for CEOs, right? Yes, let's say you're trying to build an app for CEOs or an app for product managers. I think that's more accessible, because what would you see a group of CEOs? Okay, if you're trying to build an app for product managers, right? You're trying to really help them solve a problem that they're facing. The intercept method suggests that you are going to put yourself in a space where project managers are. You are going to watch them do what they do. It's kind of related to the field, going to meet farmers on the field and watching and studying them, right? So basically, you're trying to solve a problem for project managers when they are handling projects, right? So basically, you put yourself in that situation where you can see them. A project manager is currently handling a project, but you're watching them do it. You're seeing everything that they are doing. You're seeing the process from the beginning to the end. So that way, by the time you're done, you already have a very, very clear idea of what their day looks like when they're trying to solve that particular problem. So based on the feedback that you've gathered from their daily flow, you can now use that to, inform your own design decisions, not to provide the solution that you want to provide for them. Do you understand? So that's what the intercept method is, right? And there are so much more methods, right? But we cannot cover everything on the call. And the thing is, based on what you're trying to build, like we said earlier, you're going to have to decide, which one you want to use. For instance, if we didn't want to test, if we put out a product, or let's say back to A/B testing, for instance, if we had put out the marketing side and then we got maybe 50,000 visitors in one day, or we're getting 50,000 visitors every day, and out of those 50,000, let's say 10,000 are actually turning into paying clients, do you think we'll come back and be like, 5,000 is too small? No, because even that's a lot of sign-ups per day. That's a lot, right? So when something is working, it doesn't necessarily need A/B testing. So I wouldn't come and tell my team that, guys, I know this thing is working, but let's A/B test. Who has time for that? right? But since it's not working, it's now left to the designers, like to be like, oh, or the team to be like, this stuff is not working. What can we do to find out the problem and fix it? And then you now have to think through every possible approach. Should we do cat sorting? No, we can't do cat sorting. Should we do intercepts? No, that's not what we need. Should we do the guerrilla studies? Not really. Should we do A/B testing? I think A/B testing can work. Do you understand? So that's why we say, depending on what you're doing, you have to decide what particular method works for you. But yes, we've covered every single method under the design research, and like we said earlier, this is the process, or this is the research that occurs while you design, when you're designing. Now let's move on to the post-launch research. Post-launch research. I hope I fixed this. Oh, I did. Great. Okay, so this is post-launch research. Now, post-launch research is the research that is done after the design is completed and product has been launched. Simply put, post-launch, you can see that we don't even have a lot of questions here because, I mean, it's straightforward. Design is done, we've launched. So the only question you are trying to ask now is, did we succeed? You know what? No moment when you've done something, you're like, did it work? Yeah, this is that moment, right? So did it work? Did we succeed? Is it successful? All right. Excuse me. The goal of this research is to understand how users really experience the product and whether it was a good or poor user experience. Was it good for them? Was it poor for them? Did they really enjoy it? Right. And this research would, basically tell you how your final product is performing based on the metrics that you've established. Now let's go back a bit. Let's go back a bit. It takes a while to build a product. It takes a while to complete it. I shared a story with you earlier about me, the issue I'm facing with my banking house, where it now crashes. It now crashes, and that's very, very sad. Now, they might have thought the update was successful, but on my end, I was fine with the way it was 3 years ago. I was fine with the way it was 2 years ago. I was fine with the way it was, that was 2 years ago. Yeah, I was fine with the way it was 2 years ago, right? I was fine with the way it was last year. I don't know. I don't know why they I don't know why they had to come and cause me this great discomfort, right? But imagine a scenario where you're trying to maybe do a transaction very quickly, and then when you're typing in the transaction description, the app just stops. Like you can't type in anymore, and then it closes itself. That's crazy, right? So in my opinion, they did not succeed in that aspect. I would like to tell them, they didn't even give me an avenue to tell them, right? So basically, what post-launch research does is that the team now sends out, the team basically extends their hands to the public, and they're like, look, we've given you this app. Can you please let us know if it's working for you, right? So on their end, they would be looking at things like the adoption, right? So how are people adopting this app? If we are saying that, oh, our app can do better than, I'm pretty sure a lot of us have said about OP, right? If they say, oh, our app can do better than OP, and people are not leaving OP for the app, then it means there's a problem somewhere. But if they are saying that, oh, our app can do ABCXYZ, that OP can also do, right? And people are leaving OP to come to the app, then you know that you definitely did something right. So that's the thing about post-launch research. Whether it's successful or not, you still want to gather feedback, because sometimes something looks like it's successful, but it's not. All right. So yes, you still need to gather feedback. You still need to gather feedback. So it's from here that you'll now be able to find out if people are actually using it, if people are actually satisfied, if people are actually having a good user experience, if people are actually adopting it, right? And the way you'll be able to rate adoption, one of the ways you rate adoption is how much people refer people to use it, right? I remember that there was a time when trying to perform transactions with regular bank apps was just so frustrating that I now had to switch to the likes of Pockets, and OP. And the moment I did, the experience was so seamless for me that I started talking about them. And people were like, are these people paying you to advocate for them? No, they are not. It's just that for my daily transactions, it's easier. It's relatively easier. All right. So I personally use this particular OP app for my daily transactions because it works for me. right? And I will tell anybody that complains about their bank to me to also switch to that. So that's how you understand that your product is actually being adopted by people. People are actually using it. They don't have any complaints, right? They don't have any complaints and everything is working well for them, right? So yes, post-launch research asks the questions, did we succeed? Right. So this is at this phase that we'll get insight into what people think about products and if the product aligns with how it's intended to function. Now, this is another thing. You can only design for users. Users will end up determining how they are going to use your products. That's real, right? You can only be like, oh, I want to do this. At the end of the day, people will decide. People misuse apps every single day. By misuse, I don't mean abuse it, but imagine that you're building an app for people to maybe use to invest for a long time, and then they are trading with it. It's not meant for trading. It's not supposed to be a regular buy and sell something. You're supposed to keep your money here for like maybe 4 years, 5 years, and then come back and reap the benefits. But no, instead of that, people are trading, right? People misuse apps a lot, right? Some people use Spotify just for lyrics, to see the lyrics of the song. Spotify is supposed to be for you to listen to music primarily, and then also now see the lyrics. But there are times when people will just be like, oh, I need the lyrics to this song. I can't find it on Google. Open Spotify, search for the song. While the song is playing, just read the lyrics. That's not what it's meant for, but okay, right? So in as much as now that doesn't, the fact that people might be using Spotify for just the lyrics doesn't mean that Spotify is not successful. No, but it's probably not going to be successful how they envision their own success to be. So you also want to know things like that, and it is post-launch research that will help you identify things like that. Okay, are we successful, right? And even if we are we successful how we envision to be successful? Are people actually using the app how we wanted them to use the app, or have they devised a different way entirely to use their app? So those are the kind of questions that post-launch research would help you answer. And some methods that fall under post-launch research are, A/B testing is coming again. I mentioned that A/B testing is not just during something, it also comes after. So A/B testing is very important. You test. You've launched the product now. People are doing this, people are doing that. I'm noticing that people are not performing a particular action. What if I change this feature? Maybe that will boost them, or that will boost participation in these aspects, right? So that's why A/B testing is also important, because people test. I don't have to rebuild the entire app. No, it's still the same app, but let's just change this and see how people respond to that. It's like you're testing the fires. Let me just put my hand and see what will happen. That's how it is, right? And then the usability studies. Basically, you're conducting the research to see how people are engaging with it, right? Are they dropping off? There are times when, I don't know if you've noticed this, but hear me out. There are times when you'd download an app and then you are maybe trying to sign up or create an account and you got stuck at the point, right? You got stuck at the point and you were frustrated. And you decided that, you know what? I don't want to do it again. And you stopped, you logged off, right? Have you ever noticed that sometimes a representative of that company will reach out to you, right? They'll reach out to you and they'll be like, oh, we noticed that you stopped at this point. Hope everything is okay. Right? And that's what these things does, right? They study everything. They study if people actually go through the entire flow of the entire flows that they've designed. They study if people actually like complete the processes that they start, right? And this is actually very important, because if you are able to study this, if you're able to perform proper studies to understand everything that is happening and able to collect proper insight, you will know what is causing problems for people. So if, for instance, during your registration phase, people are always logging off, or people are always jumping off and not completing the process after a particular step, then you can trace that step. What is that step? If the step is tell us your BVN, or maybe a social security number, or maybe a personal information about them, then you understand that people are probably not comfortable with sharing that particular information with you, right? So you have to go back to the driver and be like, okay, we were asking them for this because it's important and vital to the functionality of the app and of course compliance and everything. But if people are running away from our app because of this, what else can we ask them for instead? You know, so these insights are very, very important. And then there's surveys. Of course, surveys are coming here again. So that's like that's what you see when apps or platforms or brands are telling you, oh, maybe you shopped from Jumia or an online platform or Amazon, and then they sent you an email later saying, oh, thank you for shopping on Amazon. Could you just take 5 minutes? No, 5 is too much. Nobody does 5 minutes. Can you just take 30 seconds or 1 minute to tell us how your experience was like? And then they're asking you, oh, how would you rate the speed? How would you rate the quality of what you ordered? And you're like, oh, I rate this a 10, I rate this a 2. Those are also important because they help show the stakeholders on the company that people are actually satisfied or people are actually dissatisfied with their products. Right. So, excuse me, surveys are also important. And then there's the logs analysis. This is pretty straightforward. So log, excuse me. So log analysis basically just studies people's behaviors on the app. Let's call it that. So for instance, when you interact with products, there is always an array of data that is stored rather, you know, that the backend team can review, right? Sometimes they call it activity log. So it's like this. Every time you try to access that your platform or that your app that works with data, and then you encounter an error or the app crashes, on their end, they get a log that indicates that, oh, this particular user experienced this error. If they don't actively study that data, they would not be able to tell that people are experiencing those errors until people come online to complain. So basically, a good team would focus on, not focus, but they will also pay attention to the logs. Like, they also pay attention to the recordings of the interactions of the users with their products. Because every single interaction I have with every product I've recorded, whether you like it or not, right? So they pay attention to this log, and from this log, if they see errors, then they fix them before the users have to come on Twitter or come on email and saying, look, I experienced this, I'm not able to sign into this. Nobody wants to go through this stress. Writing emails right now is it's not something I want to be doing every time, right? So that's the thing, right? These are some of the methods that fall under post-launch research. Now, there are a lot more that that comes under this, but like we said, we're giving you the basics and trying to break it down as much as possible so that as you proceed, it will be easier for you to digest the rest of them that you're going to be coming across. Okay, so let's just, before we wrap up, let's just talk about the qualities of good UX researchers or good user researchers. If you, as a designer that wants to become a great as a designer that wants to become a great designer, because if you're a great designer, you'll be great across board. You need to have some of this, you need to have some of these qualities, and the first one is empathy. This is basically the ability to understand someone else's feelings. You need to be able to put yourself in your user's shoes. You need to be able to put yourself in your user's shoes, because it's only then that you'll be able to solve a problem or create a solution that is tailored to them. And people want solutions that are tailored to them. People don't want general available to all solutions. They want to know that the people actually working to build these products really care about them, right? So you need to have empathy. You need to be pragmatic. You need to have a practical approach. That's what pragmatism means, like having a practical approach to things, right? So don't get lost in the hypothesis. Don't get lost in the could be's. Like it could be, it could. It's practical. What would work? Like what would work? What can we do now? Like yes, everybody has dreams. Oh, I wish we can be able to. Yes, we know. But what is going to work now? What can we do now? Don't waste time. And that's the thing. When practical people do, and then they test. Impractical people wish. They wish that they can do this. They wish that it's possible that, and wishing is not going to get you anywhere. Action will, right? So you don't want to waste your time. Or you don't want to waste the time of your stakeholders, your team, your users. So be practical in your approach to things. You also need to be able to collaborate. Now, this is important. You hear a lot of people saying, "Oh, I'm an introvert." If you want to be an introvert, I don't know, maybe design is not for you, because you cannot do it on your own, right? You would always have to talk. If you're conducting interviews, you have to talk to people. That's not a job for an introvert. If you're sharing your ideas with stakeholders, they would bombard you with questions, and you have to be able to answer those questions, right? So it's a little bit hard. It's going to be a little bit hard if you want to stay an introvert and you don't want to collaborate with people. You don't want to talk to people. You just want to be in your own space. You can't always walk that way. So you need to be able to collaborate with people. I was saying something a while back. Of all the companies that I work with, it's only one that I'm the only designer, like only one. The rest of them I joined when there are other existing teams as when I joined, or there were other existing teams as when I joined. So I had to embed myself and work with them. It was not easy because even as I then I was still, coming from a background where I'm the only designer now, I'm always the one making the design decisions. I'm always the one doing all these, and I'm joining a team where they have a system already. They have, oh, this person has worked on this, they all work on the design system, the company has I'm like, okay. Can you hear me? Did somebody say something right now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. I thought you said something. All right. So coming from a background where I was the only designer, it was tough, right? But I had to learn to open up and be free. Okay, hey, let's do this together. How can we do this? And it made my life easier because now I no longer have to try to go it alone. I can always just reach out to the team and be like, oh, okay, Alpha, what's this? Let's do this, let's do that, right? And part of collaboration also means sometimes you make yourself available for team hangouts, because some people want to be like, oh, yes, I can collaborate now, but I'll go back to my closed doors after. You need to allow yourself to connect with people. Because even when you're talking to your users, if they see that you're not really interested in what you're telling them, they will not give you the best results, right? But when you show them that you actually feel what they're saying and they see it, you get the best from them. And then flexibility. There's something that I don't want to call it a disease, right? But there's something that plagues designers a lot. It's that they are very attached to their designs, right? And I can say that because I was also like that. Whenever I work on something, maybe because I factored in the fact that I didn't sleep, right? This sleepless night to work on this, and then somebody's now coming to tell me that I should go and think outside the box. What do they mean? Right? We say that a lot, and the thing is that it's not that deep, right? Your design either works or it doesn't. If it works, they would applaud you, all well and good, right? But if it doesn't, they have no choice but to tell you that it does not work. So the same way you would accept the applaud when it works, it's the same way that you should learn to accept the feedback when it doesn't. And then be flexible enough to know that there's no one size fits all method. The fact that you know how to do it like this doesn't mean that's the only way it can be done. So when users come and they're telling you, oh, this, I give an example earlier where I'm like, if a company works on a product and one of the important information that they need to collect is let's say your social security number or your BVN or your NIN, one of those numbers. And then people are jumping off, they are not completing their registration process because they don't want to share that particular. I've done that before. I've stopped an application process because I didn't want to share my BVN. With that particular, I didn't want to use the platform. Somebody has sent me a platform to test out because they wanted to build something related. And I was trying to sign out, and then they're like, what's your BB? I'm like, nope. And I went back to tell the guy that, look, this guy's asking for a BVN. I can't put it there because I don't even need the app, right? So maybe you find a way to sign up and send me screenshots or something. That was what I told him. Right. So yeah, cases like that happen. Now imagine that the company now notices that a lot of people are hopping off or not completing their process because of that particular question. Fine. Even though it was a very important criteria, I mean, this important criteria per se is about to ruin their business. They have to go back to the drawing board and be like, okay, Alpha, CBN or whatever, if we don't collect BVN from these people, what else can we collect instead that they will be more comfortable to be, but can still get extra information out of? There are multiple ways to get access to people's, there are multiple ways that fintech can use to get access to your records, your banking records and everything. Because these banks, I mean, these big corporations communicate. If that's what you don't know, right? So if asking you directly for your BVN is causing them problem, then they have to go back to drawing board and see another way that they can get you to sign up and get those access from the other banking institutions that you use. Right. So the fact that that was the only approach that they wanted to go with doesn't, the fact that that was the approach that they wanted to go with doesn't mean that was the only approach, right? So we can bring it back to us as designers and know that the fact that you know how to design something in a certain way doesn't mean that's the only way that it should be done, right? In fact, as you grow on in your career, you are going to figure out your own style of work, right? Chances are, see, when you join, for instance, a lot of things that we teach you now, a lot of things that we've been teaching you, will be explained to you. There are things that you need to learn as basics. When you get to a point, you're going to pick the things that you're going to use. Right. At the end of it, you're going to have to pick because everybody does not design the same way. Everybody's flow, everybody's system differs. That's why you work in a company today, they have a particular flow. And you work in another, they have a particular flow. I'm going to give you an example about that. One of the companies I worked with before now, right? Whenever we want to design, there's no such thing as wireframes. Like nobody wants to see wireframes. It doesn't concern them. They don't understand it. They want to see an high fidelity UI. Like that's what they want to see. They don't want to, what is wireframe? So imagine that you've been working in the company like that for a while, right? Then I worked on another one with another company where how it works is that when they start a project, the first thing they do is conceptualization. Not necessarily wireframing. So what that means is that you're going to go and get a lot of inspiration, create a mood board, right? And from those mood boards, you're actually going to design something. So design different hero sections. Design the hero sections well, like high fidelity so they can see. And from those hero sections, they will now share those, with the client and be like, okay, this is an approach, which one would you go with? Right. And then you work in some companies that they are like, for weeks before a project starts, you guys will do complete wireframe from A to Z. Right. And then once you guys are done with the wireframes, you guys will now share, explain. In fact, sometimes some people prototype, some companies expect that you prototype your wireframes. It's as crazy as that, right? But then again, the fact that we are teaching you how to prototype or how to do this doesn't mean that you're necessarily going to be using everything every time, right? That's why this flexibility comes in. You would have to adjust and see what works for you. So whether it be in the aspect of, the feedback that you're getting from people regarding your design or the working structure of the company that you're joining, you need to be very, very flexible, right? There's no one size fits all approach, like I said. And then I started with a quote. I'm going to end with one. Feedback is the food of champions. Stay open-minded and be willing to listen to other people's opinion about your design. Thank you very much for listening. I am going to stop sharing my screen now so I can see the people that drop messages in the chat. And if you're worried about the common UX deliverables part, yes, I know we didn't touch the common UX deliverables. We are going to tackle that on Friday. Right. So what we've just talked about is everything we've talked about is pertaining to user research. We'll up on a call again on Friday. Yeah, today is Wednesday. Yeah, Friday. I think the same time on Friday, and then we'll cover common UX deliverables, and then you get your assignment on that afterwards. So let me stop sharing now so that we can take questions and maybe just have a discussion for the next couple of minutes before everyone goes about their day. Okay. All right. Olajimoke, you have a question. You can unmute and ask. Okay.
I'm here. Sorry. I was trying to navigate my way to the unmute button. So good afternoon, everybody.
Hi.
Good afternoon. Please, I want to thank you for the lecture. My question is actually almost out of the scope of this class.
Wait, out of scope questions should not come in here so that we don't get distracted.
Okay. So we should still hold on.
Yeah, maybe just if it's is it pertaining to what you've learned or what we've taught you so far?
Yes, it's pertaining to what we've learned and concerning the last assignment. In fact, present assignment, because we still have one that has not yet.
Okay, yeah, let's just hold on to that first. Hold on to that for now.
Okay then.
All right. Christine, you're up.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Hello.
Okay, good afternoon.
Hi
My
there.
question is this. You mentioned a bit about user flow and wireframes. And I've been having this confusion because I've learned about wireframes before, at least a bit of it. I want to know, when designing as designers, are you to make wireframes for all your user flow, or you just do for few of the screens and you are done? It's quite confusing for me, so I just need clarification. I hope it's not too out of scope to the class we just had.
Not really. Okay, so let's start with this. Do you know what user flows are?
Yes, yes. They're like a journey of experience for the user, how the user is going to navigate from one screen to the other. For
Awesome.
example, if you're on the onboarding screen, the sign up screen, where you put your details, maybe your full name, your email address, and then straight to the next screen after pressing continue, where to now tell you onboarding successful, just like a flow, how the
Okay.
screen is going to move from one screen to the other.
Yeah,
If
that makes
I'm
sense.
making any sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, you know what you're talking about. Okay, so since you understand what a user flow is, then this is going to be easier. You know that if you have a flow that you've worked on, right? Each flow is going to have a screen,
Yeah.
right? And that screen is going to have to contain
Yes.
some structure, buttons, actions, whatever it is that you're going to be doing. So the answer to your question is yes.
Yes.
If you are
Yes.
yeah, if you're working on a product
Yes.
or a mega product, and I have someone I'm in contact with someone recently. She was working on a product, and then ours is even very crazy. They spent weeks working on the wireframes for every flow of the app. They did wireframes for mobile, and then they did wireframe for the desktop version. It was when they were done all the wireframes that they moved on to high fidelity designs for everything. All right. So
Wow, that's a lot of work.
that's why you charge them money, is that not? So yeah, it's a lot of work, but it helps, right? It helps you make more informed decisions. And by the time you guys are done with the wireframe and you're putting the high fidelity together, even if you have to make changes, because yes, you might definitely have to make changes, the changes are not going to be drastic. They're just going to be minor.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, and that's clear. Makes sense. Can I ask a follow-up question, please?
Related.
Yes, related a
Okay,
bit.
go on.
The follow-up question is for our assignments. Should
Okay,
we
no.
go ahead and make wireframe for all the screens, or just
We've covered assignments. Any assignment questions should hold on. And we've talked about all these questions regarding your assignments in the course before now. How many of those courses were you able to listen to?
Well, the last two calls I've not been able to listen to them because they came quite late. That's why I made sure I attended this one live today.
Okay.
Because they came late, I've not been able to go back to them because I need to move on to the next assignment and all.
All right. Yeah,
But I'll listen to them today.
Yeah, let's hold off on our assignment questions for now and just tackle the questions that has to do with what we just learned. If we still have time, then yeah, I will address.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Okay. Akoni, yes. The material, I think Shay should have uploaded them already, but if he hasn't, I'll follow up with him. But yeah, the materials have been made ready since the video was ready. Okay, Ibukun said, I don't know if Ibukun is female, right? Ibukun has a question, so you can unmute and ask.
Hello, good afternoon.
Yes, good afternoon.
Yes, concerning the assignment, can I proceed?
Wait, okay, wait, before we continue, is it safe to assume that the class was so understandable that nobody has any question? Or you guys are just not worried about this because you're worried about assignments?
Yes, so
Wow, that's interesting. Okay, so well, I really do hope that you genuinely do not have any question, because I mean your assignment for this particular course is ready already. So yeah, if there are no questions regarding the session we just had, then it's fine. We can move on. Later, your answer still it's still assignment related, right?
Good afternoon, sir. Is assignment related, but the current assignment that's for this
Okay.
particular class that we just had.
Okay, yeah, just hold on a second. Alright, so like I was saying, since we don't have any question regarding the user research session, I'm optimistic that that means everybody understands everything and no one has any questions. Okay, so for you guys that have assignment related questions, you can ask. Let me just stop the recording so that we don't bore the others with that when they're listening.